muted.
Good afternoon, everyone. We're waiting on quorum. We'll give them about 15 minutes. Thank you very much.
Muted. unmuted.
We are now live. This meeting of the City of Socorro City Council is set to begin. Due to the ongoing threat to public health, the City of Socorro, Texas Council and Commissions will be conducting a virtual meeting, broadcasted by phone and live streaming services from council chambers located at 860 North Rio Vista Road, Socorro, Texas 79927. To practice social distancing and limit the number of people physically present at one time. There will be no physical access to the location mentioned above. We do ask everyone to silence your electronics to avoid any sound interruptions. No disruptive behavior or outbursts will be tolerated, and violators are subject to call disconnection and possible prosecution. Anyone who has signed up to speak or present will be called upon by the presiding officer to speak during public comment or on their specific agenda item, in accordance with Government Code 551.042. La reunión del Concilio de la Ciudad de Socorro está por empezar. Por el problema de salud pública en curso, el Concilio y las comisiones de la Ciudad de Socorro, Texas, transmitirá su reunión por teléfono y servicios de transmisión en vivo desde la sala del Concilio, localizada en 860 North Rio Vista Road, Socorro, Texas 79927, para practicar el distanciamiento social y limitar el número de personas físicamente presentes. No habrá acceso físico a la ubicación mencionada anteriormente. Les pedimos a todos que silencien su equipo electrónico para evitar interrupciones de sonido. No se va a tolerar ningún tipo de comportamiento perjudicial o revoltoso. Quien no siga estas reglas, su llamada será desconectada y puede ser infraccionado. A quien se haya apuntado para hablar o presentar será anunciado por el oficial conduciendo la reunión para hablar durante los comentarios públicos o sobre su tema específico de la agenda, de acuerdo con el Código del Gobierno 551.042.
It is now 6:12 p.m. This meeting is called to order. Item number 2. Ms. Rodarte, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes, ma'am. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item number 3, establishment of quorum.
Alejandro García.
Ruben Reyes. Cesar Nevares is absent. Ralph Duran.
Here.
Mayor Ivy Avalos.
Present.
Victor Perez is absent. And Ivan Colon Villalobos.
Here.
Mayor, we would like to acknowledge the Honorable Commissioner Ileana Holguin.
Good to see you, Commissioner.
Thank you all for letting me attend and participate.
Item number 4, public comments.
Mayor, we have two speakers. Our first speaker is Miriam Cruz.
Hello.
Ms. Cruz, you have
Good
3
evening.
minutes.
Thank you, Ms. Navarro. I think that's Ms. Navarro. Good evening, Council, City staff. As always, thank you for your service. Ms. Holguin, welcome to our City Council meeting. I appreciate you, and we hope to see you back soon to give us all the good information like the one you're going to give us today. As a constituent, I appreciate you. I wanted to mention a couple of things that I previously mentioned, but today I will call on my representatives. I guess one's missing from District 1, but Mr. At-Large, Mr. Reyes, I'd like to implore you and request from you that maybe you bring these 2 items to the next council meeting. The first one is, as we just heard, the announcements before the meeting were done both in English and in Spanish. And in the city agenda that's presented and posted, there is a line that says that if interpretation services are needed for individuals to call ahead of time to the city and schedule that. Unfortunately, that notice is in English. it's not in Spanish. And so it doesn't make sense to me. I had pointed that out, I want to say a couple years ago, maybe a few more. And I didn't realize that that wasn't something that was, had been addressed. And I'm talking specifically about the agenda that was found online. So I don't know if other agendas that are posted, excuse me, as they're meant to, do have that Spanish interpretation, but I would assume not. That's the first thing, and I think that's very important to have. And the second thing would be that, as I mentioned in the past few meetings, I think it's important to move up items when there are speakers listed for them, and not just, you know, attorneys or engineers or anyone like that, but when there are speakers from the community, I think it's important to prioritize them as well. And I would really hope that that's something that the city council members and Mayor Avalos can consider, because just today, you know, I was disconnected from this meeting and I had to call back in. You know, it wasn't a big issue. I was able to do it, but I would hate for other constituents to feel like it's a hardship to have to wait hours in a meeting to be heard. I just wanted to bring up those two items. Thank you very much. Nice seeing everyone.
Sel Chagoya.
Good
Mr.
afternoon.
Chagoya, you have 3 minutes.
Yes, so, was looking at the backup for the MPO. I saw that, FY '22, there's gonna be widening of I-10, 2025, downtown 10, 2023, Artcraft, 2025, Pendale, 2022, Loop 375, 2022, Horizon at Darrington, 2023, Borderland Express, 2025, I-10, 2025, US 54, 2026, Montana Avenue. What's missing here, guys? Socorro. There's nothing coming to Socorro, and this is disheartening because Socorro is in very dire need of construction to occur at the MPO level. So I'm not sure whether we're having good representation in the MPO. I know this was something that I brought up to then Ivy Avalos when you were running. You didn't even know what the terms MPO meant. And so this is just kind of a trickle effect that when I asked you back then to what it is now, we're not seeing any projects coming into Socorro. I mean, Horizon, they're having Darrington, and so we're seeing things happen in Horizon, and we're not seeing things happen in Socorro. So I think it's time for this council to start doing something, start working, because, I mean, we also heard from District 4 that she'd rather have mosquitoes than to be dealing with constituents. So this is just very disheartening to hear these meetings, these videos that nothing's happening in Socorro. And so I challenge every single one of you to make something happen. Thank you.
Eugene Trujillo.
Mayor, those were all our speakers for public comment.
Thank you. Moving on to presentations, item number 5, presentation update on 87th legislative session wrap by Rick Armendariz and Marissa Marquez from Forma Group.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We do have Forma Group here to give you a wrap-up of the legislative session. I do know they have some really good information that they want to share with Council. Maritza?
Yes, is the presentation going to be up, or do I need to share it?
I can pull it up.
Well, and while Adriana brings up the presentation, there's been a couple of new developments since we actually created the presentation, namely the governor has called a second special session. So we'll talk a little bit about that as well and answer any questions that you may have. And that is for this Saturday at noon is when the governor has called it. Rick, are you?
Yeah, I'm unmuted.
Okay.
Can you
So
also-
the 87th legislative wrap-up, we wanted to kind of talk a little bit about just the items that we had briefed you on in May, and then talk a little bit also about the first special session. Quickly, the overview is, of course, the legislative and political climate. We want to talk a little bit about the numbers. Of course, COVID had an impact on the number of bills that were passed, the bills of interest for the city of Socorro, the special sessions, and then also the newest, we'll talk a little bit about that at the end, redistricting, and the bill that has created this divide that people are hearing about in the news, largely, which is the Democrats that have walked out to break the quorum in the Texas House. Rick?
Mayor, Council, Commissioner, thank you all for being here and listening. So like Marisa said, we're going to give an overview and then, feel free to stop us for the presentation with any questions, and not we can answer, or we can try to answer as many questions at the end. Legislative and political climate. We have this slide here to kind of give you an idea of what, besides the obvious being COVID, what the session climate was. While COVID only minimally impacted the number of bills filed, it really impacted the passage rate. It was a very low passage rate where you usually have about 10,000 or so bills filed. There was close to that same number. However, the passage rate, rather than being 50%, was closer to a little bit below 30. So that really impacted, COVID really impacted the operations of getting bills passed. Several special sessions are likely. We just about to finish one. We're about to go into another one, which we'll call the governor's emergency items, a list of 17 or so items that, leadership offices believe is important to pass in special sessions. The other two will be on redistricting, very important. And this, what we're calling a mini budget session, which is a $16 billion in federal funds. That session is going to be a unique, what we're calling once in a lifetime opportunity to try to, secure as many appropriations as possible. There's going to be a lot of hands out, a lot of competing interests, but it is a big opportunity for anyone that's involved in this process. The Democrat walkout late in this first special obviously polarized the House leadership. This continues to this day. Doesn't look like it's getting any better. The discussion in Austin was there was going to be a kind of a break between the end of this first special and the second called special. Doesn't look like it. Looks like the governor is moving ahead and doubling down. So that'll have implications statewide and locally. Another major item that caused some delays or some issues was the lack of interim committee hearings. There were no 86 legislative interim committee hearings, and a lot of these offices remain closed with very limited contact until the end of session. During session, most of the focus was on these quote unquote leadership emergency items, abortion alternatives, open carry, which we know passed, and voter fraud. That was what the emphasis of the session was about. And a lot of really good bills and a lot of good appropriations riders and other items did not get passed. Next slide, please. So this is what we're talking about by the numbers, bills filed versus passed. A little bit under 10,000 bills and resolutions were filed. 10-year average was 10,456 per session. This session, a little bit under 3,000 passed, 29.6. Usually it's about 51%. There was 2,254 city-related, municipal, however you want to call it, bills filed. 249 passed. Very, very small percentage. Usually that's almost 4 times that much, about 1,000 or so city-related bills. that just kind of goes to show you there was a major impact in operations because of COVID, because of this polarization that just kept growing throughout session as well. So this is a list, and you all have this presentation. We can go over, specific bills, but there's a lot of no's on there. There was a lot of, like we said, good bills that did not pass. These were some of the ones we were tracking for the city of Socorro throughout session. Something like the reliability fund for the constitutional amendment for ERCOT water, natural gas grants did not pass. Financial Assistant Water Development Board did not pass. One of the ones we were focusing on towards the middle of this slide, SB 593, Municipal Authority to Annex Colonias, again, did not pass. Municipal Authority to Annex portions of state highway system did not pass. So if you want to go to the next slide, needless to say, a lot of bills that were broadening municipal authority just went nowhere. Broadband service expansion, historical landmark for the Socorro missions that did pass, and a receivership for disposition of certain plotted lands that are abandoned did pass as well. Next slide, please. I think is the last couple of ones. Again, HB 282, Independent Citizen Redistricting Commission, which would have put a lot of the redistricting decisions in the hands of community type led committees. Did not pass, allowing employees to remove and store, abandon, or illegally parked vehicles did not pass. HB 914, which kind of gave it the same authority. So like I said, this is just a snapshot. We'll be providing a comprehensive list of all the bills that pass and when they're going to be enacted, kind of our thoughts on how they're going to impact city operations, and if there's any opportunities there to leverage this new legislation into any sort of grants or economic development or historic tourism or just whatever might benefit the city of Socorro. So, like Marisa said, special sessions, this is a little bit dated. We submitted this mid last week. First special session was called July 8th, focus on leadership priorities, Article 10 funding. That's the article that the governor vetoed that is not paid, well, as of September 1st, will not be paying a lot of agency staff, a lot of legislative offices, House and Senate, and obviously the legislators. Social media censorship, bail reform, municipal employment policies, those are all on the table and they're back on the table. I know, Marisa, you just got some new information on the Article 10 funding. What can you update on that?
Yes, so the Article 10 funding, why is that important to the city of Socorro? Well, I know you all depend heavily on grants and agencies and working through agencies for a lot of those reimbursements. Article 10 funding that was vetoed also includes the salaries for some of those agencies. So right now, these individuals are facing a September 1st deadline. What that means for them is that they will no longer get paid September 1st. They will have to do leave without pay, which means they will pay for their own health insurance and they will not get any credit for being a state employee. So they don't have the privilege of COBRA or any other kind of gap funding in the period if they want to hold on to their positions. So by the state law, the Article 10 funding would have to be reinstated outside of session. So that's not possible since the governor continues to call sessions. This would have to be reinstated by the leadership outside, and it would take about 2 weeks. I know that recently there was a news article that just came out maybe about 20 minutes ago that says that they're going to try to push it to the end of September. But what we're seeing, guys, and how it affects the city of Socorro is that these individuals that have this institutional knowledge, particularly maybe about these smaller cities, are getting ready to retire. So those that are eligible to retire are looking towards retirement because they don't want to deal with the uncertainty of September 1st. And I think this is just kind of the baiting that the governor's trying to do to get the Democrats back from DC. But it does affect these smaller communities that depend on largely these staffs in these agencies to, get through these grants, get through to these reimbursements, kind of get through any other legislation that they need. So this will affect the city of Socorro.
Well, and to put it bluntly, morale is low. I mean, people are away from their desks. The work productivity is low. Conversations we've had, not only on behalf of the city of Socorro, but for other clients, it's just the morale is low. They are looking at, not having a job September 1st. And even if it's for a month or so, and that's a month or so without a paycheck, that's a big impact. So, what the governor is doing by calling us a concurrent second special session is really all of the legislators that walked out is going to put them in a very tough position. One of the things that was tied up in this whole first special session was also this 13th check to teachers. That's on the table as well. So this is a very, very high stakes game that is going to have an impact across the state, not only within the agencies and the legislature, but municipalities, you name it, it's going to have an impact. The other two special sessions we're looking at is this ARP funding, which again, one of the first buckets of federal money that came through the state that trickled down then to counties and cities. There was a lot of complaints about legislators not having access to it. There were issues with smaller cities not having direct access to it, being under the behalf of under the county in order to draw down. So that changed. And one of the things that changed is there was a provision in the budget that mandates the governor call a special session and allow the legislators to decide how to spend that money. And so we're anticipating a special session on that. And then very important also is redistricting. Redistricting data is due August 15th to the state. The state will likely take another 45 days or so to input it. And so we might be looking at a second special session on leadership items, a third special session on the budget, and a fourth special session on redistricting, one right after another, September, October, November. It's going to get very, very contentious. It's going to get very, I don't know what's the word. There's a lot of animosity. There's just a lot of questions about things getting done in this type of environment. Yes, sir.
Quick question. If the Democrats do not come back to Texas, will these special sessions still happen?
It will. So they will call, they will take roll, they will not have quorum.
So unless the federal government passes the Voting Act, they're not coming back. Is that correct? From what I understand.
They're probably caucusing right now because of the second, it was just called today, Representative. And so we're not sure, but the way the rules work is that the speaker will call to order, they'll take roll, there won't be a quorum, and so they'll just have to sit there until there is for 30 days. So he called it for 30 days. And if you notice, if anybody's, I know you all are busy, you're not sitting there looking every day at the TV, but if you notice, they're at ease. So he hasn't adjourned at all. All he's been doing is at ease. The House is at ease, at ease, at ease, until they can try to work out a quorum.
So the stakes were raised with this special session because the governor put 3 items on there to deal with money to try to talk about this federal funding. One of them is cybersecurity. The other one is money for foster children, foster care. And the third one was, I forgot, what was it for money stuff?
Education. So
education related.
It's clear what the governor's doing, and this is just my personal opinion. What I believe the governor's doing is putting very top of the ticket items for Democrats on the call to try to bring them back to Texas, which is foster care, education, healthcare, and trying to get them to be involved in distributing that money.
Next slide, please. So here's another very important topic, redistricting. So it's based on a statewide population of 29,183,290. That's the census figure. What we don't have are, and we will have very shortly, are the city, municipal, county, all the localized data. What we do know based on that statewide population is that the Senate district is going to go from 811 to 941, over 130,000 additional people. And the House districts are going to go from 167 to close to 195. So that's going to have an impact in El Paso city limits, El Paso County, because if you look at a map and you start from west to east, the growth is, I mean, if you look at the furthest west seat, which is Speaker Pro Tem Joe Moody, he can't go north, he can't go west, he can't go south. The growth in his district has to go one direction, west. That's going to impact the other House districts as well. On the Senate, the same thing. It has to go west to account for the growth. Now, there are two key provisions that govern the process. Number one is this majority minority. Doesn't really impact El Paso much because it's 50% plus one of the voting age population. If it's majority minority, has to remain that way. 50% plus one Hispanic, African American, et cetera. And the other thing is requires representative seats to have equal or nearly equal populations. There is some deviation, but they have to be as equal as possible. Now, when you look at the current numbers of some of the current House seats, I can tell you the areas such as the Lower Valley, Riverside, Jeff, and Sleta, those populations have gone down. The west side, northwest, what we'll call like across from Pañutillo High School, across the street, has gone up. Your areas are increasing, the east side, the far east side, they're just, it keeps growing and growing. So what happens in those districts, they have to grow out, which means the other districts have to be pushed further out west. It's a domino effect. So this is going to be very, very important. Once we get those numbers, we can relay those to you and kind of give you an analysis on who we think your representative might be. That might change. The Senate rep might change. This impacts at the county level. I mean, it just has an impact, State Board of Education, all across the board. Very important. Next slide, please. So this is some of what we were talking about, just to go a little bit in depth here. You can see Senator Blanco, based on 2019 population estimate, he is down about 88,000 people. Rep. Mary Gonzalez, you can see the tremendous growth there. Her estimate is 186. She's only down about 8,000 people. But where are the two areas? Rep. Claudia Perez and Rep. Lina Ortega collectively are down close to 80,000 individuals. And then Representative Joe Moody, minus 20,000. Representative Art Fierro, minus 26,000. All those numbers have to come from somewhere. And so those lines are going to get shifted and pushed further east and further north. If you think of a map of El Paso County, just start shifting the lines towards the east. And, you know, discussions we have, individuals kind of ask us, well, you know, why are we so certain? Well, we're certain because there's no other way these districts can grow. They can't grow south, they can't go north, they can't go west. They can grow one way. So this is going to have tremendous impact, especially in District 76 and 77 that have a lot of population to make up. Marisa, you know a little bit more about the.
Okay, yeah, I'll go briefly through this, and if anybody has questions. So I just wanted to make sure you all knew why the Democrats were in DC. So it was largely over the election legislation. Very briefly, no drive-through voting. The bill as it stands, no 24-hour voting, increased mail-in ballot information, not allowing county elections to request mail-in ballots. So they couldn't send mail-out ballots without the request. So in an effort to defeat the bill, which is it passed through the committee and everything, the 51 Democrats walked out. So they immediately left the state. Speaker Pro Tem, shortly after that, Joe Moody was removed as Speaker Pro Tem by the Speaker. House Dem stated that they will hold out till tomorrow. We will probably hear in the next maybe 24 hours what their plans are. They have raised a ton of money. They're basically out there, fighting like Representative Duran said, to pass it at the national level. And Governor Abbott had said before that he'll call multiple sessions in efforts to bring them back. Are there any questions on the legislation or the walkout? I'm sure you guys have seen the news.
So what are our next steps here is we want to monitor this federal special session because we do think it's opportunity for the city of Socorro to identify potential pockets of money for these ARP funds that are upcoming for this special session. We want to, and these are some of the conversations we were having with staff and agencies, identify timelines of new grants, focus on economic development, water, stormwater infrastructure, among many. And these are some of the difficulties we're having in getting information back, but we want to put these timelines so your departments have a good idea of the dollar amounts we're talking about and the time, the timelines, or helping them on already identified grants, which, I'm sure they're always keeping an eye on. Monitor this special session on redistricting and report on the potential impact of the city of Socorro. What does it mean if you have a different state rep representing you? What does it mean if you have a San Antonio-based senator or or El Paso-based senator or Northern Texas-based senator representing the city of Socorro? What does that look like? And then obviously identify opportunities and strategies to advance the legislative agenda of Socorro, which we all discussed early on in the session during the interim committee hearings. That's going to be very important also. Try to get some of these issues that we did not have the opportunity last session, get them during the interim so we can make our case and have a stronger impact going into the next session. Yes, sir.
What I'd like to see in the future is what the vote count was on each item that affects the city of Socorro and how our local delegation voted.
You can do that.
Yeah, we can, that way we can lobby our local delegation to vote for items that will benefit the city of Socorro. And
we can get that, yes, sir.
And we also can see if something had no chance of passing, or that way, if we see the vote count, I think we can do a better job of lobbying our local delegation.
I agree. That's the accountability.
No, that's a very good recommendation that we can do as we go through these bills and have these deadlines. We'll have that spreadsheet together and we can put, we'll have individual columns and we'll let you know how they voted. We'll also look at those bills that were in committees that they were in to see how they voted on that also. Yes, good recommendation.
Mayor, and for the record, Mr. Victor Perez joined the meeting at 6:23.
Thank you. Any other questions? No? Okay. Well, thank you very much, Ms. Marquez and Mr. Armendariz. Very informative.
Thank you,
Thank you all.
Thank you, Commissioner, for your patience.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item number 6, presentation by the Honorable Commissioner Ileana Holguin regarding county program for rental and utility assistance.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Good evening, and once again, thank you for letting me participate and have a few minutes to talk about a very important program, some funds that are being administered by the county with the assistance of the Paso del Norte Health Foundation. And we have on the call with us Ana Apodaca from Paso del Norte. So I do want to just take a few moments just to speak generally about the program, and then I'd like to pass over the microphone to Ana so that she can answer any specific questions, such as eligibility questions, any other questions that you all may have. But basically what the county is really trying to do right now is make sure that as many members of our community are available, are aware of the funds that are currently available for those families who've been impacted economically by COVID. So earlier in this year, the city of El Paso and the county of El Paso received a little over $13 million in funds that can be used for rental assistance and for utility assistance for families impacted by COVID. So the County Commissioners Court, what we did with the funds that we were granted, we decided that those were going to be designated specifically for residents of the county. So what we're doing now is trying to make sure that county residents are aware that these funds are available to them. We know that there is still so much need in our community. It's just a question now, a matter of trying to make sure that the community knows that these funds are available. And these funds that we're talking about are not loans. They don't have to be paid back. It's basically free money that people who are still struggling economically because of the pandemic can use. So the program that we're talking about specifically right now is the rental assistance program. That's the one that Ana from the Paso del Norte Community Foundation will speak about in a few minutes. But there are also other funds that are available for utility assistance. We also still have general assistance funds at the county. We're working with the United Way of El Paso County. They're serving kind of as the clearinghouse where folks call into that phone number, and then they're assisted with identifying the different programs that they might be able to benefit from and qualify for and apply for. So this is a huge opportunity for so many of our county residents who may still be struggling. So that's one of the reasons that I'm here tonight, to ask you all for your help in trying to spread the word about this program. Unfortunately, we have not had a lot of applicants from the county, and we know that it's not because the need is not there. I mean, we know that our families are still struggling, a lot of our families. So we know that the need is there. It's really just a matter of making sure that the community is aware of these funds. So with that, if I may pass the microphone over to Ana, and perhaps she can give us a little bit more detailed information about the programs, anything that I might have missed or forgotten to mention. And then of course, if you all have any questions, we're happy to answer them.
Thank you, Commissioner. As the Commissioner mentioned, my name is Ana Apodaca, and I am with the Paso Norte Community Foundation, and I am the manager for the EP Rent Help Program, where we're trying to administer and ensure that our community is getting all of the help it needs with regards to rental assistance. We have a lot of funds available, as the Commissioner mentioned. The county in particular, we have that support is there, and those funds are available for county residents. So again, I implore you to please help us get the word out to the community, letting them know that the program does exist, that the help is there for them. And as she mentioned, one of the key things I feel like we need to make sure everyone is aware of is that this money is completely free. It is not a loan, there is no interest. It does not count in the future as income. The money is theirs free and clear as soon as they are qualified for the program. With that being said, I know before I ask if there's any questions for me, I just also want to thank you all, because I know through our partnership with United Way, we are right now at the Chayo Apodaca Community Center. It's a beautiful center, and we will be there Tuesdays and Thursdays for any county residents who would like to go and receive one-on-one help in submitting their application. So again, thank you for that assistance, and we really appreciate it. Thank you.
Mr. Duran?
Quick question. Is there any help for small businesses that are behind on their rent?
So not that I'm aware of. This program particularly only helps residential tenants.
And one thing that we forgot to mention that I think is really important is the amount of time that families can qualify for assistance. So they can actually qualify for up to 12 months of back rent and 3 months of future rent. So it can be a substantial amount of money to help families who are still struggling.
It really can. If I can just point out, we did help a resident in Socorro, actually. we helped earn assistance of almost $15,000, and it was almost a year. I believe it was 10 months of back rent. So again, the assistance is there, the money, the fund is available, and there is a lot of need. And like I said, this one tenant, almost 10 months of rental assistance in arrears, and that was close to $15,000 that this tenant is being helped with, completely interest-free and basically no backseas. It's her money now. It's their money now. They get to spend it. So, well, the landlord gets the money to benefit for the 10 months that they weren't able to charge their tenant.
Mr. Reyes?
Is it going to be an ongoing program until they finish the funds, or is there like a timeline that they have to?
I'm sorry, we couldn't hear.
It's very hard to hear.
I think Mr. Reyes might be on mute, maybe?
We got a, right there. Okay, I was asking about is it an ongoing program, like until you finish the funds, or is there like a time limit or date limit, I should say?
No, there is a time limit, yes, and that's why we're really trying to make an effort to make sure that the community is aware of the funds, because if the funds are not expended, they have to be returned to the federal government. And of course, we don't want that to happen when we know full well that there's still so many families that need help, that still need help as we make our way through the pandemic. So no, that's a very important point. There is a deadline, and we're trying to get this money out into the community as quickly as possible.
If I could just add a little to that, the deadline is actually looming. We have to spend 65% of the funds by September 30th, at which point the federal government can come back and start requesting that we give the money back. So we're hoping we can expend most of those funds by September 30th, or obligate those funds by September.
Mayor. Ms. Mayor.
I got
Ms. Villalobos?
Quick question, ladies. Do you have any printable brochures that we can pass out to our residents? You know, or
yes.
I see you shaking your heads. Yes, yes.
I will definitely send those to you. We do have a PDF version of it, and I can send that to you as long as I can get an email of who I need to send that to, or the contact name, and I can get the contact info later.
I think if you could send it to Ms. Rodarte or to the city, and
okay.
I'm sure Ms. Rodarte will make sure that we get a copy of it.
Will do. Thank you so much.
Anything else that we can distribute to, and you guys are going to be here this week? I mean, next week?
Yes, we will be there up until the end of September, every Tuesday and Thursday.
Tuesday, what are the times?
All day from 9 to 4:30.
Okay, all righty then. And we can bring the residents here, and they, once we have the brochures, we'll know what they have to bring with them, right?
Yes, ma'am. I can make sure that we add that to the brochure if you'd like, and then we can start sharing those.
Absolutely. Okay. Thank you.
And it's actually not very much documentation. We're trying to make the process as easy as possible. Anna, I don't know if you want to just really quickly go through the documentation.
Of course. So off the bat, what we are asking is just for a photo ID and the copy of a lease and a proof of economic hardship. We just went to Commissioner's Court this past week, and so we, through the support of Commissioner's Court, we are now basically going to start allowing residents who are maybe have difficulties in, especially because out in the county, we know that some of the relationships and contracts that exist are more so informal than formalized, to self-attest or self-certify with regards to that kind of documentation. And so that language is also allowed now for the tenants who are applying. We want to make it easy and fast so that tenants can get their assistance as quickly as possible.
And we want to make sure that people aren't afraid to apply thinking they're not going to qualify. So for example, every case is looked at on a case-by-case basis. So for example, if someone doesn't have an actual lease agreement because it's an informal rental arrangement, there are other types of documents that we can accept. So we don't want people not to apply because they don't think they're going to meet the documentary requirements. We'll work with families to make sure that we figure some way to be able to accept what documentation they have.
Mr. Perez?
Thank you. Question, what is the documentation to prove or to show evidence of economic hardship?
We usually ask if, for example, because one of the things that tenants do need to qualify for automatically from the start is be below a certain income level. So given the income level, they can also potentially provide proof of any other kind of governmental support, also pay stubs, and even a letter from the employer or former employer.
Thank you.
Mr. Duran?
What about legal status?
So that is not something that we ask, and that is not something that is important for the administration of the program. So people who are of questionable status can most definitely apply and get the assistance.
And they will not be turned over to ICE?
No. We are not ICE, no.
No, definitely no.
And all information obviously is kept private and privy to the administration of the application. That would not be an issue. We don't even ask, so.
Okay.
Do you have any weekend hours or after 4 p.m. hours? I know a lot of people go to work.
So we
during those
don't.
times.
Most of the application is available online. We've been encouraging people to go online, recognizing obviously that county residents may have difficulty in accessing the internet or even being able to look at the application. We have partnered with United Way. That being said, we are looking to host future pop-up events on the weekends. And I will be more than happy to share that information with you once we settle our dates. I'm sure Commissioner Holguin would be more than happy to share that information with you, because we are definitely looking to do weekend events where it would be more likely that county residents would be able to go during non-working hours.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
If I could give the website address, Mayor, as well as the phone number for United Way.
Of course.
So thank you. It's eprenthelp.org. And there is a button for Spanish. So if someone clicks the button, it'll get translated into Spanish. The number for the United Way Family Resiliency Center is 400-7401. And they also, of course, have Spanish-speaking navigators who can assist with the process.
So they not only assist with the process, but also if, for example, someone is having issues and can't travel somewhere where they can access the internet, United Way Resiliency Center navigators are making appointments and going to those households to help those tenants apply. They've been a great partner with us during this program administration.
Thank you for all that information. Expect a deluge of applicants tomorrow.
That's what we want.
I hope so. Thank you.
A lot of apartments in my district, and tomorrow morning they will know about this program.
I really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. Thank you all for your help in helping us spread the word. Like I said, we know that there's still so much need in our community, and we don't want to have to return any of these funds to the federal government. So thank you again for giving us this time to speak with you, and we will send over all of that information.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. Ms. Ana.
Mayor, Council, at this time, I would like to entertain a motion to move item 27 and 28.
Second.
Ruben Reyes,
Yes.
Cesar Nevares is absent. Ralph Duran,
Yes.
Victor Perez,
Aye.
and Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes, that would be fine.
Item number 27, public hearing on written charge to remove Eugene Trujillo as member of the Board of Adjustments for the City of Socorro, Texas. It is now 7 p.m.
Mayor, Mr. Trujillo is on the line and would like to speak during public hearing.
Hello?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Mr. Trujillo,
Yes.
go ahead.
Okay, thank you, council members and mayor for hearing my item here. I was sent a notice about the council trying to remove me from the Board of Adjustments. And the writing on this letter is hereby charged with failing to comply with his duties. I mean, why am I being charged? These are accusations. I mean, my God. I lived here in Socorro for 71 years. My family has lived here for 346 years. Now, why is this letter being sent to me? Limitations I'm willing to call a special meeting. I am the chairperson of the Board of Adjustments, and I am the only one that can call in for a special meeting. I saw no reason at all why to call in a special meeting. These items have been there for the last 4 months, and we have not been able to have a quorum because there was a lack of people to show up on the meeting. I will not mention their names, but you can always read the minutes. I am not begging for my position to be reinstated. I've been there with the Board of Adjustments for 23 and some odd years, and I have never failed to give a good hearing for any of the constituents, taxpayers of this pueblo of Socorro, and I will never do. Now, if someone is calling me to call in for a special meeting, I will not do it unless it is totally necessary to do it. I will comply with the constituents and taxpayers of this pueblo. But this lettering, this wording has to be changed. For anyone to write something like this about my name, I will stand anywhere to protect my family's name. So I will leave it up to you. But I have been there for 23 years, and I have always listened to the items, the requests of the constituents of this pueblo of Socorro. And this is what I do from the heart. I don't get compensated for any of this. I have been giving my time all these years only to the heart of the pueblo of Socorro. I leave it up to you because my time is limited and I have family waiting for me out there. I leave to you to choose what you're willing to do. Thank you for hearing me today.
Thank you, sir.
Mayor, there are no other speakers for this item.
Public hearing is now closed at 7:05 p.m. Item number 28, discussion and action on approval to remove Eugene Trujillo as a member of the Board of Adjustments for the City of Socorro, Texas. The city has determined that Eugene Trujillo has failed to comply with his duties and responsibilities as member and chair member of the Board of Adjustments, including without limitation, failing to call necessary special meetings of the BOA, being uncooperative with the city residents, and failing to meet the city's needs as a member and chair member of the Board of Adjustments. And this is just formal language that we needs to be used as a procedure. Unfortunately, there hasn't been meetings for the BOA in 4 or 5 months, and I called Mr. Trujillo to ask him to call a special meeting so that all of the other board members could attend. I called the other board members as well. They said yes, they were more than willing to attend a special meeting. However, he said he would not do a special meeting at all. I also asked him what the reason was, and he said he would not hear one case. I saw that was very, it shouldn't be that way. Every case needs to be heard. So I'll let you discuss. Any questions?
Ms. Mayor?
Do we have a motion?
Oh,
Motion?
I make a motion to, I'm sorry, putting on my glasses. Give me a second here.
Approve for discussion.
Well, my motion was to discuss the issue before making an informed decision, but we've, I guess that's my motion. And I think we've already discussed part of it.
Second.
Okay, thank you. So, Ms. Mayor, the verbiage that was used on the letter where it states, written charge, remove Eugene Trujillo, this verbiage came from where?
This is, excuse me, this is written by Ms. Rodarte, the city manager, and it is just procedural language that is used.
Okay, I'm sorry, I have a couple of questions. Mr. Trujillo has been serving the Board of Adjustments for how long? I did hear something like 27 years.
He mentioned he's serving for 23 years.
Okay. What is a term? Do we have a term limit?
I believe it's 2 terms.
Okay. All righty then.
Mr. Duran?
And I'm sorry, one last question.
Go ahead.
I'm not quite understanding what the special meeting was going to, I know something about 4 months and they hadn't had, so did we have backup cases that needed to be heard?
We had many cases that hadn't been heard. As I mentioned, it was 4 or 5 months that there was no quorum, so no meetings were being held. As I mentioned, I called him and wanted to see what the reason was. He mentioned there was no quorum. I then would have reached out to the members. I also reached out to them and asked them if they would like to have a special meeting so that they could hear those cases. And I reached out to him as well, and he said he would not have a special meeting.
Okay. So he basically, he had the right to or not to, but he still has to be fair.
Yes, ma'am.
Does that make sense? Alrighty, thank you, I appreciate it.
Mr. Duran?
I need to ask Jim a question. I believe 10 years is the limit for board members, and also any 3 members of the BOA can ask the city manager to call a special meeting. Is that correct too?
Hi, Mr. Duran. On the term limits, I'm not sure off the top of my head. For the 3 members, they can ask them to call a regular meeting, but for the special meeting, it is limited to the chair.
Any other questions? Do we have a motion?
Ms. Villalobos, would you like to amend your motion?
I'll amend my motion, and I will say that, based on the information that we were given right now and what we've heard, I think Mr. Trujillo, is time for him, it's time for a new chairperson.
I'm sorry, Council. We
he's
were
done it alone.
disconnected from the line. I'm sorry? We're disconnected.
Oh, please, we're having some technical issues.
We're sorry for the interruption. There were some technical difficulties, but we are back online.
Thank you. We're good. Ms. Villalobos, you were amending your motion?
Yes, I make the motion to have Mr. Trujillo removed as chairman of the Board of Adjustments.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Ms. Villalobos, would you repeat your motion?
Yes, ma'am. So, can you hear me? I'm sorry, I can barely hear you guys too.
I have can I ask a question before we continue with the motion?
Yes, Mr. Reyes?
So it hasn't been any quorum because there has been no members.
There has been no quorum
No quorum?
for these meetings. It's been about 4 or 5 months that the BOA has not had a meeting.
Were the board members, did they tell them we were gonna discuss this in the meeting? 'Cause the only person that called is Mr. Trujillo.
The board members were informed as the public is informed.
Okay. All right, that was my question.
Mr. Perez, did you have a question?
Madam Mayor, if we can just go ahead and, has the motion been made and seconded?
I believe so.
No, I don't have a second.
Mr. Duran seconded the motion?
All right, if I may make a comment, Madam Mayor.
Yes, sir.
I don't like this situation. I understand that Mr. Trujillo is the chairman of the commission. I understand that and I agree with for the greater good of Socorro, there should have been meetings called. I understand that. There is a process, if I'm not mistaken, to within the committee elect a new chairperson. And so that's, I don't think that we necessarily have to remove Mr. Trujillo. Okay, I guess the clarifications that I need. Are we removing Mr. Trujillo from the chairmanship or from the commission altogether?
I believe it's from the commission.
Altogether?
Yes, sir. He has served 23 years, and unfortunately, I thank him for his service. Unfortunately, I think it's time to give somebody else a chance as well.
And I'm not disputing that. I'm just wanting to, in my own mind, trying to put the pieces together in terms of the fact that if no meeting has been called, if in each of those times, I would suspect that the proper communication has been given to the commissioners to be able to attend. And so, again, this is very hard for me because I know that Mr. Trujillo has been serving for a long time. And as it is, you know, it's hard to find new commission members. I think it would be better served if we, and again, this is just my opinion, doesn't mean anything, that we were to take Mr. Trujillo from the chairmanship, but not necessarily from the commission. Again, that's just my opinion.
I agree.
Do we have any other comments? Mr. Duran?
Is there a mechanism for removing somebody that does not, like with council, you miss 3 meetings unexcused, you're out? Is there a mechanism with BOA?
So no, sir, the mechanism for BOA to remove is the written charge, right? That's the procedural charge that's why we have a public hearing, because the commissioner has the opportunity to come to council and explain his side, and then, the removal happens.
Mr. Reyes?
I got one last question. If he's removed, is there a time limit when he can apply again for the commission?
So there's no time frame. If another council member would want to appoint him to the board, they can, right? But it would have to go through this body for approval.
Thank you.
Ruben Reyes?
Yes.
Cesar Nevares is absent. Ralph Duran?
Yes.
Victor Perez?
I'm gonna have to say no.
And Ivan Colom Villalobos?
Yes.
I just want to say to Mr. Trujillo, if he's still on the line, just thank you for your service. Thank you for your 23 years. We appreciate it. I know this isn't the last. I hope we will hear from you again, and just thank you for your service. Okay, moving on to consent agenda.
Motion to consent agenda.
Motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
Yes. He motioned.
Second.
Mr. Reyes had made the motion, seconded by Ralph
I
Duran.
thought they said the same thing. Okay.
Ruben Reyes?
Yes.
Cesar Nevares is absent. Ralph Duran?
Yes.
Victor Perez?
Mr. Perez?
Aye.
And Ivan Colom Villalobos?
Yes.
Moving on to our regular agenda, public hearing.
Madam Mayor, I'm sorry, there seems to be some interference. If we can just mute ourselves so that we don't have that extraneous sound or noise, please.
I think everyone's muted.
I hear a TV. Is that what you're hearing, Mr. Perez?
I don't know. I just hear something. I'm not sure what it is.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay.
Is that better?
I think that's better. I don't hear anything.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, public hearing and ordinance, item number 15. Public hearing of an ordinance for the proposed rezoning of Lot 15, Mission 1, Block 11, located at 551 Zebu Road, from R1 Single Family Residential to R2 Medium Density Residential, with a condition limiting the density to a duplex unit. It is now 17 p.m.
Mayor, we have a speaker for this item, Alfredo Gurrola.
Hello?
Mr. Gurola,
Yes, ma'am.
go ahead, sir.
Yes, ma'am. I was actually, and I thank you guys for hearing me out. I was actually going to make a few comments based on the, I guess the idea that I wanted the property getting rezoned, and it was kind of denied for what I think were, and I know that these were, there were 4 individuals who went to, I guess,
comment or protest against the subdivision of my property from an R1 into an R2. And though I know very well that the residents there, they were there before I was, and they have legitimate concerns, I kind of felt that some of their what I wanted to alleviate is their fears, and of course I think some of their ideas were a little bit biased, but I understand. I am I am a homeowner, so on, and I understand that. But anyway, I think the zoning commission had kind of sided with me on the fact that the zoning could be changed because in that area where there are R1 properties, there were already several R2s. And one of the ladies in the council kind of had asked the question of whether, the master plan would have been amended. And the zoning representative said, yes, it would be that, but the master plan has already been amended. There are already other properties there that are R2s. But I understand the concerns, and part of those concerns, I think, were a little bit biased, in my opinion. One of the ladies, the represented neighbor, said that the former owners of this property, were trashy. They were littering the properties and so on, and so she felt that they were going to do the same thing. A second gentleman also said it on the idea that again, the former owner, whatever, used to allow bicycles or bikers to congregate in that area and drink and so on and so forth. And of course, I assured them that, I was the new owner, I wasn't the previous owner, so they really don't understand, and they really don't know my perspective also as a father and as a parent, as a neighbor. But I had explained to them that I would assure them that, I wasn't the previous owner. The third gentleman also kind of brought up the idea that his taxes would go up, and I was I wanted to mention to him that taxes are going to go up regardless of what his feelings are, and those aren't really decided by us. They're decided by forces that are bigger than us. The market value and the Fed and so on, and so that his house is basis. His taxes are based on the value of his car comparable to other houses of his, like his, and so I thought that was kind of and I understand his feeling about taxes going up. The house where I live at right now went up almost 100%, went up $85,000 from last year. So I understand him, but I have no control over that, even though I went and appealed it. Anyway, the last gentleman kind of brought the idea that he was afraid that they were going to build they were going to build apartments, and I mentioned to him that I really don't know. I know now where he got the idea that they were going to be apartments, because my idea was not to build apartments. I wanted to build 2 small houses there for my 2 daughters, and they were going to be well-made houses there and maintained houses there for my 2 daughters that grew up in that same area. Went to Socorro Middle School. I myself taught at the high school, and I taught in the district and so on. So I understand very well. I walked those streets. But I told them that it wasn't going to be apartments, but I think the application, it was explained to me that that's the way it is on the application. So anyway, those were the 4 individuals who brought up their concerns, and I understand they're legitimate, but I kind of felt that they were basing their assumptions on the past owners and ideas that may have some merit as a parent and as a homeowner, but really kind of unfair, a little bit unfair to me. And so when one of the council or the members that was there asked if there was going to be a change to the master plan, of course, yes, because the master plan did say that there were R1s, but then again, the zoning personnel did mention that there were other R2s properties in that area, and so that would kind of be unfair to myself also. And And the master plan for that area had already been amended way before my time. So anyway, to make it short and simple, I kind of wanted to at least try and bring it up and say and explain their feelings and what my feeling was or were on that. And of course, it was turned down. It was rejected based on, I think, their feelings, but in a sense a little bit biased, and in a sense unfair. But I understand them, and whatever I guess the council rules. I mean, I will do that, obviously, but I think I needed to explain that, at least give that my version, and see if it would have any merit on the decision. And thank you for hearing me.
Ms. Mayor.
Ms. Colon Villalobos, it's a public hearing.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you.
No more speakers for this item, Mayor.
Public hearing is now closed at 7:26 p.m. Item number 16, second reading and adoption of an ordinance for the proposed rezoning of Lot 15, Mission 1, Block 11, located at 551 Zebu Road from R1 Single Family Residential to R2 Medium Density Residential with a condition limiting the density to a duplex unit.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Ms. Mayor.
Ms. Villalobos?
I have a couple of questions on this. I know that we have a split decision from our Planning and Zoning Commission to deny and approve from our Planning and Zoning Department. My question is, if granted the zoning, can they change their mind later and put apartments? I know that right now they're saying they're putting a duplex.
Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Carlos Gainad, Interim City Planner. Ms. Villalobos, that's a great question. And so part of the staff recommendation was that you limit the density to a duplex. So the motion would have to be made as stated in the staff report, motion to approve with the condition that it's only limited to a duplex. That's the way that you would be able to limit the density to just a duplex. And it's how we reviewed it, and I think from our perspective, from a professional planning perspective, a duplex next to a single family house is not egregious, and again, it makes sense from a land use perspective.
Thank you.
Yes,
ma'am. Mr. Duran?
Mr. Gainar, based on the land, it's only half an acre. I don't see how they could put apartments on there. I think the amount of land that it has is barely going to be enough for a duplex. So I don't see how they could. But I'm sure I will amend my motion after discussion to limit it to a duplex.
Mr. Would you like for me to answer that, Mr.
Yes, please.
Mr. Duran, that's exactly right. The way that the code is written is that it allows for 15 units per acre. And so this land is a little bit over half an acre, 0.52 acres. And so divide that by 15, you're now allowing 7 units in addition to parking, in addition to the setbacks, in addition to the height limitations. You would be limiting the amount of units. But again, the way that we felt, just to make sure with our recommendation, is that you still limit it to a duplex. That makes it part of the motion, so that when you and I are no longer here 5, 10, 15 years from now, there's a public record that there's a limitation on there's a condition limiting the density on the parcel.
Like I said, after discussion, I will amend my motion to reflect that.
Mr. Perez?
It's on there. Yeah, it's on the ordinance. Yes.
I just wanted to highlight the fact that the staff recommended approval and the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended denial. And so that's an interesting situation, because I don't think that hardly ever happens. At least I don't remember it happening in the recent past. Again, that's just I just highlighting that difference of opinions.
Mr. Rodarte?
Yes, Mr. Perez, to that point, I do know that the day of the planning and zoning meeting, I'm the one that presented, and there was several speakers that called in against it. So I don't know if that took part of it, and mostly the people, they just didn't want duplexes around their area.
Mr. Duran?
With regard to your question, Mr. Perez, if you remember those income-based apartments that are on Nevares Road, one of them, the Planning and Zoning Commission voted for approval, but on the other one, they voted to deny. And we did pass that. We passed both of them. So it's not beyond, and you got to remember when you have all these people basically condemning it, I think they can be swayed by the crowd. So we have to, I mean, we're the deciding factor here. I think we need to look at what we've done in the past for similar requests. And I think we have a couple more coming up that were approved by both bodies. So I think I'm going to go ahead and amend my motion to approve with the, let's see, I'm looking at the right one.
You had made a motion to just limit to the
I know.
duplex?
With the condition of limiting the density to a duplex unit.
Ms. Mayor, I think Mr.
That's
Reyes
what it is.
also had comments.
I'd like to amend my motion to rezone to a minimum density residential to build a duplex.
Any other comments, questions?
Do we have a
I'm
second?
gonna second that, and I like to just point out that, and I think Mrs. Rodarte will agree, is there's other duplexes in the area already. It's conforming to the area. We're not doing something special here, and I just wanted to make sure that that's clear. Thank you.
Yes, so can Mr. Gallinar show you an aerial, so you can know what other homes in the area are similar?
Please.
Yes, ma'am. Can I have staff pull up the presentation? We do have a zoning map that's part of the presentation and part of your backup, but that is correct to Ms. Rodarte's point and Ms. Villalobos' point that you do have, next slide, please. It's the one that's
Number 5.
yeah, number 5. Thank you. Yeah, so that shows the 551 Cebu with the star in it. That is R1. And then you do have the orange colored parcels that are R2 that are, there's two parcels down, and then there's another 2 within that same street. So that is correct. It's still a residential land use, right? You are still allowing residential. You're not allowing commercial. You're not allowing industrial. So that's where I think there's a distinction.
Question, Madam Mayor?
Mr. Perez?
So then, those R2 properties, what is, and I tried to look at the aerial, what is on them currently?
So the one across the street has a home, and it has like a extra home for their suegra or for their mother-in-law or their children. Then you have the one to the, I guess, right side or left side if you're looking at that, that has 4 dwellings. That is actually like an apartment complex.
So then, I guess my concern then is, there's already I hate to go against the residents, but there's already dwellings that are, or multi-family dwellings on some of these properties already, the ones that are under R2. So what is the difference if we approve this one?
I mean, I know that they were complaining about trash and people driving through the area, being loud. So they want to avoid another facility. What I do know is that the applicant is trying to build a duplex for his 2 daughters.
One more comment, Madam Mayor.
Yes, sir.
I think that if we have these complaints about noise and those kinds of things, then I think that just is an indication to us as a city that maybe we need to approach the neighbors and see exactly what is the situation with the complaints, and see if we can try and address those. Because again, it seems, from my perspective only, that it seems unfair that we're telling this gentleman, no, you can't do this, when we've already set precedent for it. And those are my comments. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Oh.
Ruben Reyes,
Yes.
Cesar Nevares is absent. Ralph Duran,
Yes.
Victor Perez,
Aye.
and Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
Thank you, Mayor.
Item number 17, public hearing of an ordinance for the proposed rezoning of Tract 5D, Socorro Grant, Block 27, located at 11683 Socorro Road, from C1 Light Commercial to R2 Medium Density Residential. It is now 7:37 p.m.
Mayor, we do have the owner of the property, Eleazar Ojeda, on the line. Mr. Ojeda, would you like to speak on this item?
Well, yes. First of all, I just want to thank all of you guys, all the board meeting, for looking at my application from C1 to R2. And actually, I'm not looking for doing any changes on my property. Everything will remain the same, except the zoning from C1 to R2. And that's just to provide, the people that it's in my property to have a mailbox. And basically that's what it is. Nothing's going to be changed. Everything's going to be remain the same. And all I want to do is just keep going. And that's just about it.
Mr. Ojeda, we couldn't really hear you or understand what you were saying. Would you repeat?
Really? Yes, I can repeat that. Give me a second. Can you hear me better?
Yes, sir.
Hello? Yes? Okay. I was saying that I just want to thank everyone at the board meeting to look at my application. And the reason I want to go from C1 to R2 is just to be able to have a mailbox for, I got a couple of people living in my place, and I just wanted to have them to have a mailbox. Nothing's going to be changed. Everything's going to remain the same. And that's basically it. I just want to keep going, with my business, and that's about it.
Mayor, we have no more speakers.
Okay. Public hearing is now closed at 7:40 p.m.
Motion to approve for discussion, please.
Second.
Item number.
Madam Mayor?
One moment, please. Item number 18, second reading and adoption of an ordinance for the proposed rezoning of Tract 5D, Socorro Grant, Block 27, located at 11683 Socorro Road, from C1 Light Commercial to R2 Medium Density Residential. Mr. Perez?
Motion to approve, I apologize.
Second. I apologize too for second motion.
Madam Mayor, if I may, I'm hearing different things. I'm hearing that this is a commercial property, right? but there are people living on it currently, which I think speaks to something that shouldn't be going on, one. And I'm glad that this gentleman is trying to rectify that. Two, the application itself stated that the current land use was vacant. That doesn't seem to be the situation as articulated by Mr. Ojeda. And then thirdly, he stated that he wants to continue with his business. That's another thing that I'm not sure how all that pans out or plays out in rezoning this property. I'd like to hear more about that, please.
Mr. Reyes?
I just, could it be vacant, that nobody's living there? Because I know I used to pass by often, and there was a lot of vehicles, and I passed by not too long ago, and there was no vehicles. Maybe the vacant is that there is no people living there right now?
But he just said that he wanted a mailbox for the people that are currently there.
Mr. Duran?
Mr. Gallinar, it's time for you to speak up here. Is there somebody living there now? Is there a business there now? And if we do grant this, the business cannot be there now because it'll be an R2. Am I correct?
So, Mr. Duran, again, Mayor and Councilor Carlos Gallinar, unfortunately, I don't have the information that you're requesting in terms of what is the current occupancy of that building, right? When we looked at strictly from so let me say a couple of things. One, strictly from a land use zoning perspective. So let's just remove if we can for a minute, remove the idea that there might be people living there for just a second. From a strictly land use perspective, right, on that lot, would you allow it to go from a C1 to an R2? And the answer is yes. That is why we are, the staff recommendation is to approve. So that's number one. Number two, there is a building there, and so it is not vacant, and I cannot speak to the question of whether the applicant meant to say that the building itself was vacant, but there is a building there, there is a structure there. And then number three, to your third question, that's exactly right. Once you zone from C1 to R2, the business goes away. You cannot have both the residential and you cannot have both the commercial. So you would have to, from going from C1 to R2, it would be strictly now residential land use.
Mr. Duran?
I guess my question is going to be for, hold on. For Mr. Ojeda, you understand that if we grant this, you will not be able to run your business from this property anymore? That you are asking us to take away the business designation and make it residential for a multi-family structure? And if that structure that is there now does not conform to city codes, you'll be responsible for bringing it up to city code. Is Mr. Ojeda still on the line?
Yes, I'm still here.
So do you understand what Mr. Gallinar and this council is basically saying? You want to have but you said at the end of you want to continue your business. You will not be able to continue your business if we grant this, and it will be for a multifamily. Are you going to tear down what is there now, or are you because I don't think we have that on file that there is a building. So do you understand everything that will happen if we grant this?
Okay, no, this is what it is. I bought this place 15 years ago, and I've been renting those places ever since. And I mean, C1, R2, I basically didn't have, understand exactly what that means until a few months ago, when actually I've been using this place as a multifamily home instead of business. So when I said business, it was actually not a business. Actually, it's been a multi-family home all these 15 years. But a few months ago, I brought this family to my place, and they were trying to get a mailbox, and they couldn't. So I went to the post office, and they tell me for me to get a mailbox for them people, I would have to go from C1 to R2. Now, once again, I don't know if I was getting the right information or the wrong information. That's why I just depend on this board meeting and, make the decision. It's kind of hard for me to answer that, I'm going to tear down the building because now it's kind of scary for me. So, but no, I just want to keep using it as a multifamily home.
Mr. Duran?
Okay, from looking at this picture, it looks like it's a well-built building, but we'll have to check with the planning and zoning department, make sure that it was built legally. And I think that judging by these pictures, you won't have to tear it down. You already have it basically as multifamily. So you're just,
Yes.
when you said continue your business, I think you meant continue renting it as multifamily, not actually operating a commercial venture. Because you're just basically
Exactly,
coming
yes.
to compliance.
Yes.
A picture doesn't mean a lot. When we're told there's a building there, I expect a little shack. Now that we're shown this picture, I can see that it looks like it was a well-built building. And if it was not built to code, then as any other apartment, you would have to bring it up to code. But I think that's up to planning and zoning department. The planning and zoning department, not us.
Okay.
Mr. Gallinar, on this structure, on this, I know he's changing it to a medium density residential. Will there be any ponding on site required?
Would there be, let me see the size of the parcel. I think it's more than half an acre, so
Yes, it's 0.604 acres.
Yes, Mayor, so it would require on-site ponding, correct? 'Cause
Okay, so he does have to make a pond.
Correct, so Mr. Duran's correct, once the structure is brought into, from commercial to multifamily, the structure would have to meet every single multifamily.
It has to
standard.
come up to code.
Correct.
That includes parking lot,
Yes, that's right.
Okay, just,
Mayor.
Ms. Villalobos?
Quick question, if we do grant him the zoning change, will he be allowed in the future to add on to these apartments? Based on the size that it currently is?
So Ms. Villalobos, the answer to your question is yes. That's the short answer. The longer response is that yes, but it still has to meet all the different standards, setbacks, height, parking, ponding, all those sort of things that come with the dimensional standards that come with the development.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Mr. Perez, would you like to amend your motion?
So, right now it is to approve, right?
Yes, approve for discussion.
Well, so we're clear, it's going to be an R2, correct?
Correct, so if you approve it, it will go from a commercial to an R2.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yes. I don't know if you want to put density limits, like a limiting density to the 4 that he currently has, or just leave it open?
I'd rather, well, Yes, and I thank you for that clarification. I think that I'll go ahead and amend my motion to approve with the density cap of the current structure and the capacity currently on the property.
Okay.
Second.
Ruben Reyes,
Yes.
Cesar Nevares is absent. Ralph Duran,
Yes.
Victor Perez,
Aye.
and Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
The next one. Yeah, Mayor, once again, Carlos Gainar for the record. So the applicant has asked that we postpone items 19 and 20 for 30 days.
Motion to postpone for 30 days, items number 19 and 20.
Second.
Second.
Thank you.
Ruben Reyes,
Yes.
Cesar Nevares is absent. Ralph Duran,
Yes.
Victor Perez,
Aye.
and Ivan Colom Villalobos.
So sorry. Yes.
City Clerk Department, item number 21, discussion and action regarding election services contract with the County of El Paso and to authorize the city manager or her designee to execute same.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Ruben Reyes,
Yes.
Cesar Nevares is absent. Ralph Duran,
Yes.
Victor Perez,
Aye.
and Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
City Manager, item number 22, discussion and action to approve the anticipated proposed tax rate for the fiscal year commencing October 1st, 2021 through September 30th, 2022 for the city of Socorro, Texas.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We have received the final worksheets from Ms. Pasillas up there at the county, and Mr. Casiano will give you an update based on the information that we received.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Could I get you to click on the tab that says debt rate? I'm saying debt service rate calculation. See if that'll come out. On the tab there, on the very bottom.
Okay.
Not on the worksheet.
I got it.
There it is. So the worksheet now contains a little an added measure that's the less certified 2020 excess debt collections, and so of course when we calculate the tax rate, we have to take into account what our debt service is going to be, because we do have certificates of obligation. The debtors to the city of Socorro have first dibs on the tax money, and that's why we've come up with a debt service tax rate of 0.1622. It says 05, but it's actually 04 based on the calculations. It's so many decimals into it that it's not going to matter. But anyway, that's the final number based on the certified amounts, and so that's where we begin. So if we can go back to the 2022 tax rate analysis, we'll see that is embedded into all three scenarios. If we could go back to the other worksheet. There we go. Okay, so in this worksheet, we have in the column that says fiscal year 2022, no change. That is showing a combined tax rate of what it is for the current year that we're in. For the fiscal year 2022, no new revenue rate. That is the calculation, again, based on what Senate Bill 2 allows us to calculate as a no new revenue. And then for fiscal year 2022, the voter approval rate, which is basically a 3%, 3.5% increase over the previous year. And what we are advocating is that we use the voter approval rate, which is that 0.803158. And you see that in the combined, it's made up of the debt service and the M&O rate. And so the M&O rate will it'll decline from the prior year, but it's still going to be pretty substantial. And what we're showing to bring into revenue is going to be a total of 7.9 million, and that's what we're basing our budget on right now. And for tax revenue for the debt service, we're going to bring in 2 million and change, and a combined of 9.9 million, almost 10 million from the tax rate based on these rates. So just to give you, if you could scroll down a little bit, you know, the bottom line is we're still looking at 1.5 to 1.6 million of using the reserves, but keep in mind that the actual tax rate is going down slightly, so that a home valued at 100,000 is actually going to pay less. It's not a lot less. It's $33.84 less than they paid last year. And just keep in mind too that the mean or the average household value in Socorro is $92,847. So it's pretty much keeping it the same. Now I just wanted to also show you. Do you have Ms. Rodarte, did you have the numbers or the worksheets that were sent by the city to calculate these these rates?
Okay, so give me a second.
All right. And if you could just roll to the very last page of that, because it's all finally summarized. I mean, the calculation is like 15 pages long, but the numbers show up at the end of it. So.
Hold on. Can you see it?
No.
Okay, just 1 second. Can you see it now?
Yes, that's it. If you could just roll to the very final page and make it as big as you can.
To the very last page?
Yes, you know, and you know, the city of El Paso, that office helps us do this. Thank goodness, because this is pretty complicated. And there you have it, the total tax rate. And what it's showing there is the no new revenue tax rate of 0.78695, and then the voter approval tax rate of 0.803158. And that's the rate that we are suggesting that we use for our tax rate for this upcoming fiscal year. I think it's going to generate what we need, along with the use of the reserves. I think we'll be in really good shape again next year. Are there any questions?
Mr. Duran?
You know, based on, we've been hearing about people that can't pay their rent. We're hearing about, due to COVID. I think we should go with the no new revenue rate, based on the fact that we need to give our residents a little bit of tax relief. And I realize that $50 is not much, but I think it will help our citizens, and they're the ones that we answer to. And I think that that's the rate we should go with. My personal feeling that the constituents need a tax break because of all the hardships that they've gone through this year. How many people have lost their jobs how many people have had to quit working so that they could take care of their kids at home. And I think that this is what we need to show our constituents, that we understand the pain and suffering that they've gone through over the year by not raising their taxes.
We're not actually raising the rate. The rate, again, is going to be less than it was, and they're actually going to go down. And just a couple of things, if I could mention, because of course what you're bringing up is very valid. But we keep in mind there a couple of things is that we're considering doing some TRZs in the city, and if we lower the rate, then future revenue streams could be reduced as well. So it's just something to keep in the back of your mind. The other thing is, interestingly enough, and this kind of surprised me, I got the numbers today from the city about our collection rate. And our collection rate is actually above 100%. And so there hasn't been what you would, it's definitely not a crisis, but if anything, it's a surprise at how well the collections have been for the year coming into this next fiscal year.
Mayor, may I?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Jim Martinez, City Attorney. Mayor and Council, the one sort of, technical issue, one just sort of nuts and bolts kind of procedural issue. Look, and I don't mean to meddle in council's decision-making. Setting a tax rate is obviously a policy decision. But the one thing at this stage, keep in mind, you're not really imposing the tax rate. This isn't the ordinance. This is a place marker. And our advice on this issue at this time is the same as it has been for the last 7 or 8 fiscal years. And there are many municipalities around the state that do this. This is really for the notices that you're going to publish. This is for public notice purposes. And in terms of mechanics, you always want to pick what we used to call the rollback rate. Now we call the voter approval rate. It's the high rate. It's the highest rate that doesn't trigger an election. And you want to do that because that leaves you with discretion when you do adopt a tax rate with an ordinance to lower it. I think every city attorney in the state would tell you, yeah, you can always lower it. That's valid. You really run into problems if you try to do the opposite. If you try to set a low rate now and use that lower rate for publication and notice purposes, and then something happens or there's an exigent circumstance or for whatever reason, you get to the actual adoption phase and you want to increase it. Well, most municipal attorneys are going to say, you've got a notice problem. I don't think you can do that. And so just in terms of mechanics, our advice is always, it's not really a policy issue. It's just a fail-safe issue. You want to pick the higher one now for notification purposes, and you can make the actual decision at a later date.
Any other questions?
Again, Madam Mayor, by me?
Yes, Mr. Perez.
Just for clarification, this is just for publication purposes, and this is not an increase. If we go with the voter approval tax rate, it is no increase to taxes, and potentially we could reduce the tax rate if the council were so inclined. Correct?
Well, the voter approval tax rate, as shown there, is less than what we have now. So it would be a reduction.
So then, okay. Thank you.
Now, the other side of the equation is the values have gone up. And so we're going to actually generate more revenue.
Yeah, and Mr. Casiano brings up a good point. With the new statutory mechanism that we have, the new statutory rubric we have to follow, and Socorro's particular position in life, it's growing very rapidly. Nuevo Waco Tanks is in full force in effect. It's open. We're just bursting at the seam. You're gonna very likely face this same situation for the next 2, 3, maybe 4 fiscal years, in light of the substantial growth, you're going to get revenue increases that are going to require you to continue to lower and lower and lower the tax rate, unless you wanted to go to an election, which is the voter approval rate.
And then also in terms of the property values going up, that's certainly beyond our control as a city. And I would hope that our residents would fight as much as possible on the valuations if they are not satisfied with them.
Correct.
Thank you.
Do we have a motion?
What is the motion, please?
We don't have a motion, Mr. Perez.
Motion to approve using the voter approval rate.
Second.
Ruben Reyes,
Yes.
Cesar Nevares is absent. Ralph Duran,
No.
Victor Perez,
Aye.
and Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
Item number 23, discussion and action to approve the scheduling of 2 public hearings on August 19th and September 2nd, 2021 for the anticipated proposed tax rate for the fiscal year commencing October 1st, 2021 through September 30th, 2022.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Ruben Reyes,
Yes.
I have
Cesar
a
Nevares.
question.
Mr. Duran?
Okay, on September 2nd, that's a holiday weekend. A lot of people are not going to be in town and won't be able to participate in the public hearing. That's also when Socorro has their homecoming parade. So I think we need to look at that date and see if we can change it, because we don't want to hear, well, we were at the parade, or we don't want to hear, we were out of town. I think we need to make it so that every constituent has the opportunity to participate in the public hearings.
Jim, are we allowed to change the dates based on the time frame that we have to adopt the budget and the tax rate?
Yes, ma'am, you can. You have very limited discretion. You have very limited room. I mean, there's triggers before and after, and it has to be within so many days of the adoption, but not more than an additional number of days. Let me do the math, and I'll get right back with you if you want to go to the next item or just put this on hold. Mr. Duran, let me ask, you're saying that the September 2nd is a holiday weekend? I have that as a Thursday. Am I missing that?
It's a Thursday.
The holiday weekend,
I believe it's September 6th.
Yeah, when is the,
I believe September 6th is Labor Day.
September
the homecoming
6th is the
parade
Labor
was
Day.
going to be on that week, on that day.
What is the holiday again, please? I'm looking at my calendar. It doesn't say anything. I mean, doesn't mean that
I
it's.
believe it's Labor Day.
I don't see a holiday on the 2nd.
No,
Okay.
So
it'd be
Labor Day,
September
so
6th.
Labor Day is September 6th?
Okay, when is because I was told the homecoming parade was going to be on the 2nd.
Yes, the homecoming, the Socorro Homecoming Parade is the 2nd, and Labor Day is Monday, the 6th.
Correct, and on September 2nd, you do have your regular council meeting,
Okay,
because they are the first and third Thursdays of the month.
I know, but it falls on a day when a lot of people aren't going to be able to participate. I just want to make sure everybody has the right to participate in the process and not have to decide, do I want to go see Mija in the parade, or do I want to go and speak on the tax rate?
Understood, but the thing is that we're also obligated by the deadline set for.
That's why we're asking Jim.
Jim, what do we do at September 1st?
I think that works. Charlie, do you know off the top of your head? I can't see a way that is too early.
I'm not sure, to be honest with you. Let me look. See.
Yeah, the short version is I think the September 1st works. I wouldn't do it any earlier than that. And there's a number of different worksheets and checklists that I have to go through. If council is inclined to move it, I would say do it to September 1st. And if it's an issue or if there is some limitation that is simply kept located at the moment, I'll notify council at the second meeting in August.
So at this time, I'll amend my motion to change the calendar date for the public hearing to September 1st.
So August 19th and September 1st?
August 18th and September 1st.
19th.
I'm sorry, I apologize. It's hard to hear. August 19th and September 1st of 2021.
Still second.
Ruben Reyes.
Yes.
Cesar Nevares is absent. Ralph Duran.
Yes.
Victor Perez.
Aye.
And Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
Item number 24, discussion and action to review and approve El Paso County 911 District Fiscal Year 2022 Budget Plan.
Motion to approve for discussion.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We do have Mr. Scott Calderwood from the 911. We also have our Chief of Police that represents us at that board. And every year they bring in their 911 budget in order for us to review it and adopt it. So that is what they're here. Mr. Calderwood?
I need to
Yes, can you hear me?
Hold on. Let me.
second.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Can
sir.
you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, this is our annual submission to Socorro to review and approve the El Paso County 911 District budget. So I didn't really get a chance to speak with a lot of you about this, but we have Chief Burton on our board. He's very instrumental in helping us, prepare this budget. So I don't know how much of I know you've had a very busy day. I don't know how much of a presentation or how much information you would like.
Scott, you mind if I cut in here for a little bit?
Sure, please.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Dave Burton, Chief of Police for the City of Socorro. So I sit on the Board of Managers for 911. I can tell you that Scott is a very fiduciary type director in his dealings with 911. He's very responsible with the money. The 911 Center, just to give you some logistics, they handle 17, not only their own calls, but also 17 other PSAPs in the area, which are our communication centers, and then 35 first responder organizations. That includes fire, police, and medical. So they have a lot of responsibility in an area for coordinating the communications for an emergency response. This year, unfortunately, what we saw in the initial budget was a drop in revenue, and that can be found on the proposed FY 2022 budget. If you take a look at that, which is one of the blue pages, it'll show that the 2021 budget was actually about $9.5 million, and this year it showed a drop of revenue of $8,400,000. That's not something that Scott's done. That's just a loss of landline finances, because obviously landline is going into history, and everybody is starting to use the cell phones. Scott did, along with other 911 centers, did try to get increasing in funding from the cellular type services, and that was denied. So now we have to live within the budget that we're looking at, which is obviously about $1 million less than it was last year. But thanks to his administrative skills, we've actually reduced administrative cost so that the total expenditures expected for 2022 will be about $1.2 million less, or 12% less than what we spent last year. So Scott, and you can correct me on this, but we expect to live within the budget at this point, right, without going into reserves, because that was one of the original discussions that we had with the 911 board, is that we would have to go into reserves for that.
No, actually, we're going to pull out over $1 million from reserve.
Oh, okay.
We are not contemplating raising any kind of fees, and we want to continue to provide the same level of service that we've been providing to all of our public safety partners. And so we have some opportunity for some federal grants and some other money. So this is just a period of uncertainty. And so at this time, this budget reflects us pulling $1 million out of our reserve. And unless we can find funding elsewhere, that's the best we can do. It's not sustainable, but it'll get us through this year and into some time where we can come up with a more permanent solution for funding. So the takeaway is no increase in fees, same level of service we've provided all along, but we are going to have to dip into reserve in order to provide that level of service.
Does anybody have any questions for Scott or myself on that?
Do we have a second?
Second.
Ruben Reyes?
Yes.
Cesar Nevares is absent. Ralph Duran?
Yes.
Victor Perez?
Aye.
And Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
Item number 25, discussion and action to approve for Mayor Ivy Avalos, District 4 Representative, and any other council members to attend TML Region 4 meeting in Odessa, Texas, Friday, August 20th, 2021.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Ruben Reyes?
You have
Mr. Duran,
How are you all getting there?
our own transportation.
Your own transport, okay.
I'm sorry?
Any other questions? Oh, I think Ms. Rodarte, did you have something to say?
So normally when we go to these region meetings, a car is rented, then they drive to this meeting and then they come back.
Ruben Reyes?
I'm sorry. Hello?
Ms. Villalobos?
Yes. Okay, so I apologize. So we will stick to the procedures that we normally do, which is get the rental car, drive down there and come back. Same day, correct?
That's completely up to you all.
Okay.
But so if you are planning on spending the night, we just need to identify it so we can make those arrangements.
What time is the event over at?
The dinner and program starts at 7 p.m. The social hour is at 6 p.m. And Odessa is about a 4-hour drive, give or take. No, maybe. Would you like to spend the night over there, ma'am?
Without making it such a dramatic situation, because of that I'm still recovering from all these surgeries, and I'm eager to go finally to one of these meetings. I enjoy them. We learn so much from them, but I don't know my capability of driving back unless Mayor feels so late. Unless Mayor feels comfortable, I'm fine with coming back after the event.
I'm fine with coming back from the event at night. I don't mind it. I can drive. It's not a problem.
Okay.
So we
I'm
did,
good with it.
correct. So the backup does have a 500 limit. So if you decide that you want to stay over there, we can definitely fit it into the.
So we don't have to make a decision right now?
Well,
it's just the decision to go?
I think that you can make a motion to approve with either way, for them to give you approval that if you want to spend the night, you can.
So I'll go ahead and amend my motion to approve the trip with the contingency of renting a motel room, motel stay if necessary.
Mr. Duran?
Last time we went on a trip like this, the rooms in Odessa and Midland area are extremely expensive. I would go ahead and research that before, because I think the last time they had a special rate of like $400 a night.
Oh my God.
They do have
They have a suggestion here
correct,
for Marriott. It's $139 plus a 15% tax.
Okay, that would, if they can't come down, but I remember the last time we were all shocked, and you were there, Ms. Villalobos, when they told us, it was like, oh, we got a special rate for you. Of course, that's the special rate. But these towns are extremely expensive to spend the night in. We should look at the rates before.
The only thing there, if I can add some more ideas or comments, is that you can't put a value on safety.
Oh, of course.
In case that something, God forbid, something were to happen. So I think I think it's good to just have the contingency of being able to stay the night at a motel if it's necessary.
Do we need to raise the cap on it?
No, I think by the motion, it'll allow us to be able to get the room because you do have a budget for it.
Okay.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second.
Ruben Reyes?
Yes.
Cesar Nevares is absent. Ralph Duran?
Yes.
Victor Perez?
Aye.
And Ivan Colom Villalobos?
Yes.
Item number 26, discussion and action on the approval for the Socorro High School Homecoming Parade event for Thursday, September 2nd, 2021, and to waive the event permit fee.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Mayor, if I may.
Yes, Mr. Duran?
Jim, didn't we come across this a couple of years ago about waiving permit fees, that if we do it for one, we have to do it for everybody?
Yes, and my advice is always you don't want to do that. If council insists on doing that, I would definitely recommend as part of the motion adopting a finding that the event serves a public purpose.
In the motion or where?
Yes, the motion would be to find that the event serves a public purpose and in light of that, to waive the fee.
I'll go ahead and amend my motion to approve, given that this event will help bolster the morale of our city, especially after having suffered a pandemic.
Second.
Ruben Reyes,
Yes.
Cesar Nevares is absent. Ralph Duran,
Yes.
Victor Perez,
Aye.
and Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Well put, Mr. Perez. Thank you. Yes.
Mayor and Council, item number 29, discussion and action to vacate Los Adobes Drive to any future development.
Motion to approve for discussion.
Second.
One second, please. Okay, so this request comes from Mr. Fernie Salcido and the constituents of Rancho Mirabal, a subdivision directly connected to the proposed subdivision Hacienda de Socorro. Residents at Rancho Mirabal request that the proposed 6-foot rock wall already promised by the developer ESCO Land Management Company not be developed.
So they don't want a rock wall?
They don't want it to be developed at all. So they don't want a rock wall. Mr. Duran?
Didn't we already approve this subdivision?
I'm sorry, Ms. Mayor.
Yes, ma'am.
Real quick, it has not been approved yet, Mr. Duran. Mr. Perez, no, they do want the rock wall. What
Oh, they
don't-
do want the rock wall, but they don't want a fence.
They don't want the gated
Oh, the gate.
access that we had talked about, where they have the gate doors locked up and only for emergency purposes. The reason the constituents here in my subdivision are saying is because that subdivision, as it was originally brought up, has, I think, 3 exits. Ours would be the 4th. So, if I'm not mistaken, but ours would be an emergency. And I'm gonna tell you all, I have no quarrels one way or another, okay?
Mr. Duran?
Okay, safety always has to be first and foremost. Access by ambulance, access by fire has to be first and foremost. Right now, if is Mr. Our planning and zoning director still?
No, unfortunately, he had to leave.
Okay, well, I think we need to postpone this until we get information from him, rather than, because I mean, the last meeting we had, they moved the park, they moved this, they moved that, and we need to have him here so we can discuss what's going on and what the ramifications of vacating a street would be.
Madam Mayor?
Mr. Martinez?
Yes, ma'am. Mayor and Council, I would recommend, I actually endorse Mr. Duran's suggestion, because I think I need more information to give you competent advice about that. And maybe as a starting point, it would also be helpful if council, mayor, or council as a whole could clarify what the proposal is, because right now it's kind of contradictory. It says to vacate Los Adobes Drive. Okay, well, vacate means to close a public road. And then it says to any future development. I'm not sure what that means. The clarification of the intent would help.
So if I may, Madam Mayor, I'd like to amend my motion to postpone this item until the next meeting so that we can get clarification from staff as to what the scope of this request is, and if we have anything pending that might preclude the city from taking such action.
Second.
Ruben Reyes,
Yes.
Cesar Nevares is absent. Ralph Duran,
Yes.
Victor Perez,
Aye.
and Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
Item number 30, discussion and action to direct staff to amend section 46 of the Muni Code to allow mobile modular office units for commercial use.
Motion to
Motion.
approve for discussion.
Second.
Mayor, if I may?
Mr. Duran?
Okay, I don't know if a lot of you have seen up there on Zaragoza, there is a complete complex of, they're basically just Connex trailers that have been used for business. There's one there. There's also one over on Pelicano in front of Sam's. And there's one on the downtown El Paso. There's coffee shops there. And then on the west side, on, I believe it is Mesa near, I can't even remember the name of the street, but it's there on Mesa. And also, we already have a lot of these type of office buildings already in Socorro. There's one that the gentleman sells those little butler buildings. He's using one of those as his office, so he's already using that. Plus, the city of Socorro, we have them all at the police department. There's, I believe, 4 of them in the back, and our police station is basically a mobile office building. So I'm just thinking if we can direct staff to change the, because it's kind of antiquated, so we can get some of these type buildings in Socorro. And I think some of them are, they border on art, especially the one up on, I invite you all to go and look at it. It is something, I mean, you can't believe how they use these trailers. And they're solid steel, they're durable, they're gonna last forever. And I think that we need to just direct staff into looking how we can incorporate that type of structures in Socorro.
I agree, but I think that to your point, and I'm sorry, ma'am, if I may go ahead, add a comment.
Yes, Mr. Perez?
That there has to be a baseline as to how those buildings look. Because yes, to your point, they can be dressed up really nice, but by the same token, they can look really unappealing if they're not taken care of. And so I think that we need to have staff also look at that, plus any safety issues that go along with them.
Exactly. I mean, that's why I brought this up, to have staff put together change to the Muni Code to allow it, but like you say, they got to be safe. Number one, safety is always going to be number one. Number two, aesthetic. They have to, you know, they have to be well painted. They have to be dolled up a little bit, because nobody wants to walk into a semi-trailer. And this way, it will allow them. And like I said, I ask all of you to go up and look at these structures that they've been building. And it just, like I said, some of them border on art, especially the one on the west side.
The one on Mesa, the coffee shop?
Yeah, you've been. And then there's one downtown that's very simple. It's just 2 of them stacked on top of each other.
That's the one I'm talking about.
Okay, that one downtown, but there's one also on North Mesa that is just unbelievable. I mean, you cannot believe that these are just Connex trailers. Anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Any other comments, questions?
Ms. Mayor.
Ms. Villalobos?
Hello. Yeah, thanks for bringing this up. They are the future. We see them more and more. When you go to the other cities, you know, I first encountered the first one, I want to say in San Diego, the second one in Las Vegas, and I thought they were the neatest, cutest, you know, structures for businesses. So, Mr. Duran, thank you for bringing it to the table. Was it you? I'm sorry.
Yes, it was me.
Yes, okay, I was right, okay.
Thank you for the comments, because I think we all need to just go out there and look at them and see that could be here. And then, like I said, there's already some here. I talked to the owner from Mobile Mini. He wasn't able to attend the meeting tonight. He's in Phoenix, but he already has 450 of these units out in El Paso. So it is the wave, like you said, it's the wave of the future. And it's a way to express
And recycle.
and recycle. I mean, and judging by, we already have some used in Socorro for storage, and they are extremely durable. I mean, they're solid steel, they're waterproof, windproof. You know, they're just the wave of the future.
I just might make one my man cave.
That's not a bad idea. I'd go visit. First beer will be on me.
Ruben Reyes,
Yes.
Cesar Nevares is absent. Ralph Duran,
Yes.
Victor Perez,
Aye.
and Yvonne Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
Do we have a motion to delete 31, 32, and 33?
So moved.
Second.
Ruben Reyes,
Yes.
Cesar Nevares is absent. Ralph Duran,
Yes.
Victor Perez,
Motion, yes.
and Yvonne Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
Motion
to adjourn.
Second.
Ruben Reyes,
Yes.
Cesar Nevares is absent. Ralph Duran,
Yes.
Victor Perez,
Aye.
and Yvonne Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
Good night, everybody.
Meeting adjourns at 8:37 p.m.
Don't forget, Mr. Perez, first beer is gonna be on me. Good night.
Sounds good.